the 2014 Super Megafest with your host, David Ciccariella, with Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner.
Welcome to the Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner Q&A. Let's give them another round of applause. So how are you enjoying your time in Massachusetts?
Good, good. Better to be here than Buffalo. Yeah.
So my first question for you is, what got you into acting in the first place? Because everybody has an interesting journey of how they became actors.
There you go.
You're not getting out of this one just because I'm starting it. Actually, I started studying acting when I was a kid. I used to babysit for James Best and his wife. He was a wonderful actor. Some of you may remember him from the Dukes of Hazzard. He was the goofy sheriff. However, he's a really fine dramatic actor, and he was a coach. And I babysat for them. He started teaching me acting, and one thing led to another. Several years later, and here I was.
Mine was pretty easy. I just started doing stunt work. And that kind of got me into the door and started doing some auditions and got an agent and started working. 51 years ago, haven't stopped.
Wow.
That's it.
Speaking of stunts, what was one of the most dangerous stunts that you performed?
All of them. I remember one that stands out is in Palm Springs. On the trams they have going up the side of the mountain. There was some kids trapped in the tram between towers, and it had stopped, and there was no way to get them. So Steve Austin has to climb up the tower and then kind of go across there's four sets of cables to get to the tram. I actually wasn't going to do that. In fact, my stuntman really wasn't going to do that because he didn't like heights. And
Are you talking about Vince?
Vince Nedrick.
Vince.
Anyway, but I had carried Vince for many years through the Big Valley. Not carried him, but I mean, I did most of my stuff in the Big Valley, and Vince was my stunt guy. But I was young and invincible, supposedly, and it was just more fun, made the day go faster, and so Vince brought in another stunt guy his specialty was more or less to do this, and I guess they walked around all day, all morning, looking up and looking at it, and when it came time to do it, that guy didn't do it for some reason. I don't know why, but whether he got sick or maybe backed out, I don't know. But we were kind of losing time, so I asked the director, Mike Motor, actually it was the old man Motor, I forget, Mike Motor was the AD, but there was anyway, I said, look, I'll just go ahead and do it, and so that's the way it came about. But getting up there was easy. Going out on the cables was the toughest part. There were two sets, a set of cables below you that you walked on that were, this thick. About like that, but they had grease on them naturally because they needed it for the trim. So they had to wear these special boots that wouldn't help you keep from sliding. And then you had two cables at waist high, which started at your waist, and as you got towards the tram, you were into almost, just before you get to that thing, you're almost in a duck walk. And that's a very awkward position. And then that was when about 5 or 10 feet from here to this fella in the front row is when I kind of froze up because I looked down, but it was really 250 feet, and so you got a little nervous, and then I decided, well, I don't think I can move. Do I go back? And then I thought, no, it was hard enough to get here. And so I looked down, and then I saw the two stuntmen taking pictures. So Vincent and the other guy, we were shooting up, taking pictures, and it kind of just somehow got the adrenaline going. I said, "That son of a gun." So I made it to the top of the tram, and I didn't smoke. But I asked the cameraman who was on top of the tram with the camera and another assistant if they had a cigarette. I guess now I know why they want cigarettes after you do something or other, you know. I don't know. But anyway, that was probably the roughest to physically. It wasn't physical, it was just a mental thing. Physically, a couple of, real quick, I'll try. On a horse in the Big Valley, going along with Linda Evans, and see the old rifle glint barrel in the bushes and dive off. They put a stunt girl in for her. Naturally, I did mine. Dove off, landed so that the girl more or less landed comfortably and rolled down the hill. The stunt was great. Okay, we moved down there. We put the camera down and, okay, bring Linda in. And we put her on the ground, and I'm kind of on top of her. Nobody said to us that the director was going to fire a gun right behind the camera, which he did, and it scared Linda. I went ducked down, and she raised up and broke my nose with the back of her head. Then I hear the next thing is, let's get his close up before it swells. So there's give and take in this business. Sorry to take so much time.
Oh, no, that's fine. Those are awesome stories. Now, Glenn Larson, who recently passed away, he worked on $6 Million Man, and I think produced The Fall Guy. Could you talk about some stories working with Glenn?
Well, Glenn was a pleasure to work with, as I'm sure Tom Selleck could tell you if he was here with Magnum PI. Glenn always used to love to write his stuff in Hawaii, which was great. That's how he can convince you that it's really going to be a good series. It invites you over to Hawaii and be there and help him kind of, while he writes it, you have those little umbrella drinks. And so it all works out well. But Glenn was a wonderful man. I can't believe how many series that he created himself. And naturally we lost him a week ago. But just amazing. And Selleck can tell you, and I know he still drinks it. I don't drink any wine anymore, but it was like a Cabernet, Robert Mondavi. It was 1974, so if you're ever with Glenn, you were in the store searching for that, because he was a great wine connoisseur. But just a wonderful man. He was a Mormon, had about 8 kids, but just a very nice guy. We'll miss him.
That's wonderful. Now, Lindsay, this fascinated me. On The Bionic Woman, you played your look-alike, Lisa Galloway. How was that experience, playing the 2 different roles?
Exhausting. Okay, you're up. Okay, you're up. Okay, now you're up. It was really interesting. You know, the technology back then was nothing like what we have today. So we had to do things where there were a lot of straight lines on the wall so that they could match up the 2 shots. It was interesting working with the stunt person and watching her mimic me and seeing when she wasn't doing it right and then thinking, should I go on? Or should I stop and correct her? It was just, it is a lot of work, but it's really interesting to change your mindset. You gotta change your mindset. Sometimes I'd stop playing Lisa, and it was time to play Jamie again, and I was still talking like this. And it was like, Lindsay, what? Oh yeah, okay. And didn't quite switch all the way over. So there was a lot of interesting challenges. I'm trying to remember all the various things. Sometimes when I watch a show, I'll remember more than just kind of off the top of my head. But mostly it was having to change the head and then just the constant.
You played it so believably. I mean, no, you played the 2 roles very distinctively as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, this always fascinates me. There's action figures and dolls of both $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman. How did you feel when you first saw the action figures for the first time?
Well, they came out and they measured. I assume they did the same for you. They come out and they measure. They do a mask on your face, and then they measure with this little thing that measures centimeters and half a centimeters and all that. Every little thing in your face. And they made my doll, and they came out for approval, and it looked exactly like his wife. What is that about? What was all that stuff you were doing? No, I don't approve that. I mean, she's pretty. I don't mind being associated, but come on. So they had to go back to the drawing board and got it a little closer to me. So that was my first experience with the doll.
How about you, Lee? When you saw your action figure, let's not call it a doll. Let's call it an action figure.
Yeah, I was going to correct you on that. But I have guys come up and say, I had your doll. I said, no, you had my action figure. I really didn't think much of it. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, but you know, at that time there wasn't much merchandising stuff going around for shows. So, and you didn't realize, as she can tell you, we work so hard and so long hours in this business that maybe you get a couple of months off or 2 months off. But the months you are working, you're doing 12, 14 hours at least a day. And so those months I have off, I would run to a place I had that was a hideaway, just with no TV, no phone, no nothing. In fact, my agent couldn't even get a hold of me. And so you don't realize, first of all, you don't realize how popular the show was when you're doing it. It's probably only in the later years that you realize, you know what, God, it's affected a lot of different decades, and it was a pretty damn good show. But it's only because a few people who come up and say that you watched it, you loved it, and all that, because we didn't get. I'd only started doing these a couple of years ago, and so I didn't get out much as far as in the public, but just realizing how much that show meant to a lot of people, and then I was just amazed. And so now I understand all the dolls and the lunch boxes and the stuff. I wish we got residuals from it or money from it, but we don't.
It's in the contract, but we don't.
Wow.
I don't know how they did that one.
Well, I'll tell you how they do it. Universal. I want them to do my taxes.
Amen.
I tried to audit them once years back, and we did kind of get through the paperwork and stuff, and it came out that we owed them money. No, actually, they found that, we forgot, we raised your thing for a little, so I think I got a little check. And, but then they said, we'll give you this, but don't ever come back. Don't argue with us again. So, you can't beat them. They got more lawyers than their best lawyers. And like I say, I wish we had them as our tax people. Anyway, that's all I want to say about Universal. Because there's too many cameras going. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I love you, Universal, if you're going to do another show or something.
You said too much. Uh-oh. No. No, but let's just take a poll here. How many people here in the audience had action figure of the $6 Million Man to Bionic Woman? Wow. That's awesome. That is great. Now, before I turned it to you guys to ask some questions, I want you to all think about some good questions here, okay? Got a few more questions for them. So you guys think about your questions, okay? All right. So my other question is, Sandra Bullock, one of her first early roles was in the Reunion movie with you guys. Could you talk about, like, this must have been new to her, and you must have taught her so much about acting.
I think you worked with her actually more than I did in that show, because she was, I guess, going to be the next Bionic Woman or something. I don't really remember what the story plot was.
Yeah.
It was a girl show.
Yeah, no, she was very green at the time, but it was just, had so much natural, bubbly energy and a darling personality, and kind of had to remind her to get on her mark. But as the show went on, she was doing better and better work, and there was a scene where she had to cry, and it was, by that time she was kind of tired, and so we just did some work in the corner and came back and said, okay, roll the camera. And she was right there, and I thought, this girl's going to be great. So, you mentioned that she was supposed to be the next generation. We went back to California, because we shot that in Canada. We went back to California, and everybody was waiting for this spin-off, but they decided, the studio, as I understand it, I don't know about the network, but I think the studio, they had decided that she couldn't hold a series. And I went to bat because I thought she was so I said, she's just green. She just need a couple of shows and you're going to be like, trust me. I mean, I really get it. I worked with her and literally worked with her, kind of helped her a little bit. I mean, not tons. She already had a lot of talent already, but just the working little bit I worked with her. I said, she's right there. She's just ready to pop open. They said, I don't think she can, we watched this. I thought, oh my goodness, that's sad. Well, next thing you know, she was the hottest thing in town. So I'm sure they were spending some sad nights.
I didn't think she made much doing that show either. And she never, she didn't get paid anything to do that show. Of course, we weren't getting paid. But she never hired us for any of her movies either. Goes around, comes around, right? Supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now this is interests me. On $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman were on, because most spin-off shows are on the same network, but in this case they're on different networks. Is that true? 1 year. 1 year. Okay.
1 year. They wanted to, the people that were developing all the shows at ABC at one point were trying to get rid of Lee's show and my show at one point. It was just an interpolitical thing. And they kind of finally were able to kind of ease mine out. Lee had 1 year into it already, or before I came on. Was it 1 or 2? You came in. Second year, yeah. So anyway, it was just a whole interpolitical thing. And NBC knew that we were still really hot, so they said, hey, what are you doing? This isn't because of ratings, so they kind of picked us up. Well, what ended up happening was that the man that was at ABC that literally got rid of the Bionic Woman on ABC ended up getting hired away by NBC that same year. So NBC put us on the NBC, and then they hired the same guy, and he went, get that show out of here. And so he fired me again. He got rid of the Bionic Woman again at a different network.
Wow.
Silverman.
Silverman?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at not taking things personally, but that was a tough one.
Now, Lee, you kind of spoofed your $6 Million Man character a couple times. I really like the movie Trojan War, and you play like a captain, but he was Captain Austin or something like that. Do you remember that experience working on Trojan War, and then like you even spoofed the action of your
That's
$6 Million Man?
A long time ago.
Yeah, that was around like 96, I think, 97. That is a long time ago.
Yeah. Did it ever come out?
Yeah, it did. I enjoyed it, yeah.
Wasn't it Jennifer Love Hewitt?
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't do much in that film, I don't think. But and I don't really remember that much about it. But I try to spoof it as much as I can. But the only good news is that there will be a $6 Billion Man movie that who I'm very happy got the part is Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, and Peter Berg, who they did the Afghan what was the Iraq picture that just came out? Wounded Warrior, was it? No, what's the movie that Lone Survivor. That was it.
The audience
Great
helped
movie.
out.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Peter Berg directed that, and of course Mark was in it. I've met Mark and I've met Peter. I know both of them, but I think it'll be a tremendous movie. And because they tried for many years, there was different titles going around. And people like Jim Carrey and some other people that I thought was going, what, it must be a comedy. But finally, it's making some sense now. So maybe we'll see it. And don't ask me. I don't nothing. They haven't even written the script yet. So
hopefully they put you both in a cameo. I mean, that would be fantastic, right? You'd be the father of Mark Wahlberg. I would like that. That'd be awesome.
Standing in the wax museum.
Exactly. Walk by. I think those eyes moved. I think no. So yeah, let's turn it over to the audience. Oh wow, hands up already. That's what I like to see. Okay, let's start like in the back corner right there with the glasses over by there. Stand up if you ask a question. Yeah.
He doesn't have glasses.
Oh no, he had sideburns. The guy with the
He had
glasses.
glasses?
No, the guy with the glasses was next
You
to him.
just like, because you got sideburns too.
You like him?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Wagner, I just wanted to say that your portrayal of Jamie made the viewer care about the character, and it's no wonder that you got the Emmys. So I think that every time I watch a show, the viewer cares about Jamie. The viewer wants to help her out. I wanted to just say that. And my question is, since he was a daredevil, not a professional actor, and a bit of a character, what was it like to work with Evel Knievel?
Well, thank you very much. That's my boy back there, Elvis. I like him. I saw him at another show. Thank you very much. I like him. He's a good guy.
Very interesting. He was a pistol and showed up when he felt like it and didn't when he didn't. It was, it took us about 12 days to make that show. We shot all the rest of them in 6 to 8. He was just a free spirit, to say the least. He was pretty wild. There was a day when we were shooting, and he just loved messing with me. And we were shooting at the bottom of a very windy canyon. And all we were supposed to do was he comes up and he revs it. I can't remember what the line was. And he's something, and he goes, "Get on." And I'm supposed to get on. And we're just going to roll out of the shot, meaning 10 feet at most. So I get on, and then he and or the stunt people were going to go do this whole big run up and down the hill really fast with cameras everywhere, which they didn't have set up or anything yet. So I get on, and they say, "Action." He says, get on the camera. And he takes off and goes up that canyon at full speed. I had absolutely no control of this body or my mouth. You son of a... every swear word I'd ever heard in life came out of my mouth. I was literally beating him on his back. I was like I was up here watching, going, "Will you just calm down?" And my body's going, "Ah!" flailing like such a girl. And excuse me, you feminists in the audience, but it was terrifying. We got to the top. Look at, I'm stuttering just remembering it. So we get to the top, and he turns around, and I just start to get off, and he goes, "Hang on," and he takes off, and he goes back down that canyon. And by the time we got to the bottom, you know, I was almost crying. I was so terrified. And he's laughing, and he stops. And I get off, and there's my crew standing at me, the director, and everybody's staring. And I could see all these faces, and I thought, don't lose it till you get in your dressing room. Don't lose it till you get in your dressing room. So I swing my leg around, get off, I make a funny face, and I yelled, "Wardrobe!" and I walked into my dressing room and just cried my eyes out. And I was really angry. We made it eventually through the show, and I don't know, maybe it's an episode you like. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to do that with my therapist.
Okay, now with the glasses. Stand up, stand up.
Great job on Warehouse 13, if anybody saw it.
Pardon?
Were you their first choice for that role? Or did you have to go
Yeah,
just
no.
call and say, "We want you for the role"?
Yeah, they did. They just called. As a matter of fact, they'd kind of written it. The writer / producer that wrote that particular episode and was creating the character to come and go. They had written her with some of what they knew about me and what I was doing for the last 6-8 years at that time, which is doing these workshops and retreats, the meditation and the teaching people how to kind of relieve stress by doing a particular technique called tapping, where you tap on the acupuncture points. And it's a certain process that's really amazing, really powerful. And he'd read about that, and his wife had been doing some of that work as well. She was a holistic practitioner, and so he was familiar with it. So when he read that I was teaching that on my website, that's where, if you remember the introduction episode of Dr. Vanessa, she says to Artie, "Have you been doing your tapping?" You know, and he goes, "Well," and then I said, "No, you haven't, have you?" And I start tapping on him, and he's going, "Ugh." You know, that whole scene was based on the stuff that's on my website about that. And so it really tickled me when they sent it to me to say, would you come play Dr. Vanessa? Well, they sucked me in by doing that, you know. So anyway, so I kind of rewrote it a little bit to make it more accurate, and you know, and then that was fun.
Warehouse 13 was a great show, and it was awesome that you're a part of it. Man with the hat.
This is for Mr. Majors. Mr. Majors, you're an excellent actor. I understand one of your favorite episodes in 6 Million Man is one of the running backs. I'd just like to know what it was like to act with Larry Zonka and Jim Brown. And I understand you're a good friend of Elvis Presley, and you used to play football. I just wonder what it was like to play football with Elvis Presley and all those actors.
Elvis, it was flag football, which is still can be pretty rough, but because he had his own rules too, you know, and his own mafia bodyguards that played. So the episode you're referring to is one of our running backs is missing with Jim Butkus, Larry Zonka, a bunch of Ram players, and that happened to be the first episode that I directed, and it was a tough show to do because they're not really actors per se. So to do we had a football field set up, but it was guarded by some prisoners, and it was just a hard rock place. I mean, it wasn't a real field. It was just out in the pasture, but it was not very soft either. And so Larry and I were on the same team, and the other guys were the guards. It was supposedly like the longest yard kind of thing, but I remember, and I don't know why, but when they kicked the ball off to Larry and I, there's two of us on this team. He gets the ball, and I have to block for him. And it should have been, he should be blocking for me. He's a big mountain of a guy. Anyway, we were going down, and my thing is to throw a block into Dick Butkus and then get up and go throw one into another one of those big players. And after the first one, he landed on my ankle, so I was able to get up and start limping on. I didn't try to show the limp, but it was a tough show. But to get them to stay on the set for most of the day because it was hot, I ordered a garbage pail full of ice, and a couple of cases of beer. I figured they didn't have many lines. All they had to do was play a little football, so they couldn't really screw it up. So that's about it on that subject.
Going back to your directing, was it interesting to direct yourself?
Yeah, it's hard. You never really want to do that. You find anytime you're directing yourself and you're in the shot, and you got especially that show with that many people, that many guys in it. It was just and they weren't really actors. It was very tough to do. So, but directing yourself is always kind of tough because you really want to concentrate on the other actors and whoever you're directing. But as a director, you know you've got so many people coming up every second asking you a question about wardrobe or the next scene, something, props or something. So it's a very difficult thing to do.
Great. Next question. We'll see you over the corner.
Yeah. I just want to thank you for coming to Boston, the Megafest. We really enjoyed it. Quick question about Andre the Giant. What was it like working with him with the Bigfoot episode? So I know you're both in the episode, I believe, right? Yeah. And the Bigfoot hysteria at that time.
Mine's short.
Mine's long.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I wouldn't know. But I did read it on the bathroom wall. Anyway, all those cameras were running. The costumes smelled horrible. It was just awful. You know, at the end of the day, like, oh, give me a hug. Yeah, that's the thing that stands out in my mind the most was that nasty, stinky thing. And he had to crawl all over him on it, with it on. That must have been fun. You go.
Just a quick story. As we were shooting in the woods, a hot sunny day, and Andre loved beer, and he was in that suit all day, as she can tell you. And I'm sure he was sweating quite a bit in there. And he's 400 pounds and 7'5" or more. And so we got him some beer, and he would take a break. He would sit in the director's chair and we'd watch him, and he'd pop a beer and chug it down, crush the can, throw it away. He did 6 of them just like that. Didn't bother him. Okay, Andre, come on. Well, hate to say this, but one time I didn't do it, but they slipped him a little LASIK, a little water pill. Because how do you figure how long you could go in that suit without having to go? So I don't know what you were smelling. Because I never saw him go all day. It was kind of a bad thing to do. But you know what? His kidneys were this big, so it didn't affect him. He didn't even have to go. I mean, but Andre the Giant was a wonderful French wrestler. He loved to cook. He had a restaurant in France, and that was his biggest passion. And he was a very gentle man. They called him the Gentle Giant, and just a wonderful guy.
So when Bigfoot came back, though, he was played by Ted Cassidy.
Yeah, that's correct. Andre wasn't available, probably for doing wrestling somewhere all over the world, and there was a stunt guy named Ted Cassidy who filled in. He didn't fill the suit quite as good as Andre the Giant, but we got away with it. I mean, who could tell?
Okay, see.
They all smell the same.
Do another front one. Yeah.
Lindsay, recollections, you did one of the original time travel movies, the Jimmy Logan. I only saw it once, never available again. Thoughts are about that movie?
It was interesting. A couple of different things stand out in my mind about it. One is that you really learn. I mean, okay, they're both trying to get out at the same time, both ideas. I hadn't had the experience. I hadn't been in the business, well, all that long. I had been doing 6 mil and whatnot, but sometimes you're always not shooting in sequence, the movie in sequence, right? So sometimes you have to shoot an ending sequence very early in the film. And in this case, I was playing with 2 different leads. I had my husband, and then here was my past life lover. And so we did all the stuff with my husband first, and then Mark Singer came on the show. And one of the scenes that I had to do with Mark was a love scene. And they had scheduled it the very first scene, and I'd never even met him before. So it was, Lindsay, this is Mark. Mark, this is Lindsay. Okay, get in bed. You know, it was like, and so this is to say there were a lot of jokes, and it was very, very uncomfortable. We got to know each other really fast. That was an interesting experience with not shooting in sequence early on in the. But you just don't think about stuff like that until you've been in the business for a while and you encounter these funny little things. The other thing was something that I found that was funny in myself. Playing this character, she was very, very old world sensibilities and very kind of girly compared to, say, my natural personality. And that's not a judgment. It's just, you know, we all have basic natures to our personalities, and then as an actor you have to learn to stretch here and stretch there and call more on this aspect of yourself and less on this aspect, and vice versa in other characters. Well, in this case, there was a scene where she wanted to wear her dress for a gathering of her friends that came to see their new house, and she wanted to show off this gown, and of course there's this big hat that goes with it. And her husband and the friends want to take off and go. He says, I'm going to go show him the property. Let's go take a walk. Let's all go take a walk. And she goes, and she says, oh, wait, I have to get my hat. And so he's going, no, come on, we're just going to say, I'll catch up with you. I have to get my hat. And so she's got to go back because she has to wear her hat on this walk in the garden. Everybody else is in American clothes, and she's in this gown and this thing, you know. So, and you got to be honest, and you have to love and honor your characters. You know, if they're different than you really got to love and honor that. So I went and got the hat and come back. And then she says, wait for me, and has to run off to catch up with them. But every time I'd run, the hat would come off. So I had to go, wait for me. And, you know, I was run off. And it was like, every time I do it, I'd start getting embarrassed. I was just like, come on, girl, this is silly. Take the hat off and run. No, you have to wait for me and do the hat. And I was so embarrassed. I must have done 15 takes before I got off, just for one line, to get off the porch. I mean, I can do the toughest, the crying, all this kind of thing. But to say, wait for me, and, you know, and mean it, and not, you know, being patronizing to my character, you know, that was a funny one. I really had to laugh at myself. Anyway.
Okay, now who has a question for Lee? Okay, red shirt.
When did you learn to fly? Did you learn before or the $6 Million Man, or did you fly helicopters and fixed wing boats, or what?
The only flying I did was I learned to fly the Bell Jet Ranger helicopters, but it was kind of during the show on our breaks. I went back to Oklahoma with a friend of mine who had a helicopter and was able to learn. And I always wanted to fly a helicopter mainly because in most movies or most television shows, even Fall Guy in 6 Mil, I was generally, especially Fall Guy, hanging off of a helicopter or in one. And I just wanted to know how to get one down, because sometimes I'm in there with just one guy. And, you know, everybody can have a heart attack or something. And, you know, that was the main reason I did it. And I was able to do it in a couple of weeks. And it was a lot of fun to learn. It was the most trying thing you ever wanted to do. I've never tried fixed wing. I assume it's probably much easier, because the helicopter is like patting your head and rubbing your tummy and saying the Gettysburg Address all at the same time. Because there's so many different things you have to do with the collector and, you know, the whole thing. So anyway, it was interesting.
Now a question for Lindsay. That gentleman? Yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to ask for both, but it works for either. I know that there can be a lot of unique people in the world, and I wonder if you've ever encountered anyone who's expected you to actually have bionic powers.
All the time. And not just children.
Every bar I went into, there was some guy wanting to arm wrestle.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. He was there, oh, you do this. Would you do this? And I said, no, I'll just pick you up and throw you across the street. And they go, and I back off. Come here. Come on. And the more you insist, the more they back off.
Now, what do you say to them when they want to arm wrestle you? Back in the 70s, you go, yeah, man, I'm doing it.
No, I said, yeah, man, I'll buy you a beer. I don't want to wrestle you. I'll buy you a beer, though.
Okay. Let's see. Green shirt in the back, the Green Lantern shirt.
This question is for Mr. Majors. Your career goes beyond $6 Million Man. Do you have any stories you can tell us about your guest appearances on Raising Hope?
Oh, Raising Hope? Oh. Yeah, Raising Hope. Yeah, I love doing that. I was the father of the son. Yeah, right. The most interesting thing about that show is Cloris Leachman. She'll moon you in a hot second.
Pardon the pun.
No, she's kind of out there. And I worked with her first in the Big Valley, and she played a mean kind of woman. And I think her and Stanwyck had a long fight, you know, and she's a tough lady, and she survived all this long. And but you know, they are putting her cue cards next to the camera so that she can read her one line. But you know, you got to give her credit. She's lasted this long in the business and was still working at that time. So she's just funny, but it was interesting.
They don't make them like Cloris Leachman
No,
anymore. No. You in the corner?
Question for both of you. Lindsay, I know you teach acting, is that right? What advice would you guys give to young actors nowadays about breaking into the business and learning the craft?
Honestly, breaking into the business, I have no advice for you. It's a very different world out there today. And we come from having been here for a while. So it's not something I feel I have a whole lot to contribute in that sense. As far as the students that I've worked with and what I find working with them the most on is the need to really get down and be honest. I mean, not that that hasn't always been true, but I think acting today in general is better than ever. And it's the depth of honesty that's there. So learning your lines to the point where there's techniques to use for that. This is, again, another something that I found with the students that I'm working that they needed the most. There's something called a fast line rehearsal. Until you get to the point where you know how to memorize and get it into a different part of your brain, not the thinking part of your brain that feeds back information, but gets in the point where it's like in your cells and you just don't even have to think about it, that allows you to be absolutely and totally present in this moment with those words and in the framework you've set for your mind to be in this situation. So that honesty can just start flowing out because you're not thinking about the lines at all. That's one of the things that I've seen the most. And I think it's hard today because so many people, anybody can, there's so many outlets, there's so much work, there's on the internet, on the web as well, and this, people tend to mimic so much what they see. And that's what I mean when I say stepping away and getting down and getting honest with pulling you up. There's more idolatry going on than ever, but there's so much and it's so constant that I think actors, I don't see them thinking, well, what's in here? I see them going, they come to play a role. For example, if they're going to do a role from Batman, not the Batman character, but the Joker. There's a lot of good scenes that actors pull for, want to perform as the Joker, and they get up there and they play the Joker that they've seen. It's like, no, the reason he was good at that is because he found that darkness within himself, and he let that come out that way. We all have it, like it or not. So you got to go in and find what pain you have that can express itself in some sadistic way, and then do not follow me home. But there's things like that because there's so much for kids today that they grow up on all this stuff that they want to go do that, be that. So they don't have the orientation that I think in the old days. The old days, I'm calling us the old days. We had an idea of stuff, but just talking about myself, hon. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah.
I'll just give you one advice that Barbara Stanwyck gave me. It was be on time, know your lines, hit your mark, and keep your mouth shut. But back then it was there was only 3 networks. And there were, for many years, only 3 networks. And to survive through those is quite a feat. Nowadays, there's so much reality shows, and all of a sudden, you do a show like, no offense to any shows, but say Jersey Shores, or pick something, and immediately they're made stars, or they think they're stars. And then, of course, maybe 5 years later, where are they? Some you never hear from or see again. And so, in fact, one of the Jersey Shores he's so rear in back taxes, I think he owes so much money, it's unbelievable. And we never even got a quarter of what they get today in reality shows. It's amazing. But getting into business is very tough. It's something if don't even think about it if you can't stand rejection. That's the main thing, because you're going to get rejected a lot. Even in the last 10 years, I've had to go in for auditions, and I see the casting people getting younger and younger, and there's some of them in their 20s, and they say, okay, what have you done? I look and I say, you first.
Wow, those are beautiful responses. We're running out of time. We have maybe like 5 minutes left or less. But before we take another question, I'm just curious, what are you guys working on now? If you don't mind talking about it.
I got one guy there that's been raising his hand.
Oh,
every
okay.
time. Go ahead.
How do you guys feel about the fact that you're pop culture icons? How does that resonate with you? Like, I mean,
Pop culture icons.
I mean, yeah. How does that feel knowing that you're pop culture icons? That's something you did a long time ago just grew so big and.
You know, I don't think we think about it in those terms. I don't, and I'm sure she doesn't. We're just normal people like you that got a lucky break, and unfortunately, we did take advantage of it. And if you do get a break and you get the door opened a little bit, get your foot in it and then knock it down and just keep on working and stay true and do good things, and good things will happen to you. Thank you.
I think, like I said, we're slowly running out of time. But if you would like to talk about what you're currently working on.
I'm developing things that I really can't talk about right now.
Top secret,
We
just like
can't talk
Bionic
about
Woman.
it.
Yeah. Just like Bionic Woman's missions, top secret. Yeah. Lee, what are you working on?
I just finished a month and a half in Michigan doing a wonderful film. It's a faith-based film. How many heard of the movie God Is Not Dead? Okay. Same people, same company. And this script is a better script, even better cast, and a bigger budget. And it'll be out Easter time, and it'll hit about 2,500 theaters. It's going to be big. It's called Do You Believe?
Okay, I think we're going to take just one more question. We're running out. Let's see, who do we have here? But it got to be a good question now. Okay, yeah. Sure, what's your question?
Lindsay, I've seen from your social media that you've gone to a couple charity events with Justin Chambers. Any hope in seeing you on Grey's Anatomy as a holistic healer?
I don't know about the holistic healer, but we've been talking. I don't know exactly what that's going to develop into, but we'll see.
Right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Let's give them a giant round of applause. Let's stand up. Stand up. Give them a standing ovation. Lee Majors, Lindsay Wagner, $6 Million Man, and the Bionic Woman together again at Super Megafest.